I'm Paul Van Squike, your Taekwondo guide, and this is Topic Tuesday. The concept of Topic Tuesday is simple. If you have a question about Taekwondo, leave it in the comments, and I will address it on next week's Topic Tuesday. We have a conversation all about Taekwondo. There's no fancy editing, so what I always recommend is that listeners pop in some headphones and get some chores done while they learn about Taekwondo. Let's start out with your topics. And man, did you guys deliver this week. I have a nice selection of topics here. Our first topic is from Sean Erickson, who writes, I'm fairly new to Taekwondo. I've been doing it for 4 months now, and I was wondering how to develop instincts for blocking, counterattacking, etc. in a shorter amount of time without doing a large amount of sparring. Sean, this is actually possible. It's true that it's better to develop the reflexes you need for sparring without engaging in the hardships that is full-on sparring as much as possible. And there are methods to doing that. Basically, what you have to do is compartmentalize elements of sparring, drill them in a live format, and do it with low impact so that you're not exposing yourself to high risk of injury as much as possible. Now, believe it or not, I have 2 courses. One of those courses is all about this very thing. It's a mini course, and it's got multiple drills that you can use to develop your instincts for defense and offense within the realm of sport Taekwondo. It is only $15. If you go out to eat, you're going to spend more than $15 now. Good grief, if I go to Pita Way, which is a really good fast food restaurant I like, if I get a meal and a drink and a side, a combo, it's almost $20 for lunch, okay? So if you want to learn some really good stuff that I got from my friend who trained for years with one of the Olympic coaches, it's all in that course on my website, tkdguide.com. It's the sparring course. You can't miss it. But yeah, it's about taking things that happen in sparring and isolating them so that you can learn to develop reflexes against those specific things. Again, highly recommend that course because it's going to give you a lot of different drills you can use to do just that. All right, from DINOX 2009, Dinox maybe? Great vid. Here's my question. What can I do to get my kicks faster? Like each legs. How can I continuously throw kicks from each leg fast? Speed comes from a few different things. Some of it is genetic. I think that what's agreed upon largely now is that everyone is born with a certain level of fast twitch muscle fiber, and that some people just have more of it than others, and so those people have naturally more speed than others. If that's not the mechanism causing it, well, there's certainly a genetic component, whatever it is, that just allows some people to be faster than others. The next element comes from strength and conditioning, so doing context-specific exercises that enhance the speed of your techniques. I have a, this is like pitch your courses Topic Tuesday. This one's free though, so I like to talk about it because it's free for you if you want to check it out. It's all about conditioning for Taekwondo, and so it's called How to Supercharge Your Taekwondo, also on my website, tkdguide.com. So you can look at that to use some of those exercises to help build speed. But the biggest one is going to be moving efficiently. A big part of speed is simply efficiency. And that one is not contingent on what's out of your control, which is your genetics, and strength and conditioning, which diminishes quickly. I've talked about this with my sparring coach a number of times. We have people in and out of sparring program. Maybe they have to go do another sport. Maybe they're just interested in competing for a little while. And so, while he does do some strength and conditioning, he keys in almost exclusively to building the right body mechanics so that they move as efficiently as possible, because that tends to stay with them a lot longer than the strength and conditioning. So yeah, you can boost the speed up a little bit. If you hit someone with strength and conditioning, after a few months, they're going to start seeing results from that. But as soon as you stop that strength and conditioning, those results diminish, whereas the efficiency, as I was saying, stays with you. So it's shaving off all the excess movements, all of the muscle tension that you're using that you don't need, making yourself as relaxed as possible and as direct as possible. And that, of course, translates into speed, but more importantly, it translates into a speed that stays with you regardless of where you're, I shouldn't say regardless of, but in spite of, perhaps is a better word, missing your strength and conditioning component. Now, if you're a high-level athlete, of course, you need that trifecta. You need good genetics. You need to incorporate strength and conditioning, because everyone else is going to have the efficiency side down as well. So if you get your efficiency up to a high level, that's the most important one. Then you start worrying about that strength and conditioning as well. But if you only have time for a little bit of training, like most people, then the efficiency avenue is going to be the best bang for your buck. Next from Andrew, QX8YX. Hi, Paul. What do you think is the black belt equivalent in other sports like kickboxing or similar, in terms of years of training? And is there a martial art that is like Taekwondo, just without poomsae, since today many focus too much on forms and little on practical things? It's funny that you say many focus too much on forms, as though there's a right or wrong amount. That's entirely a preference-based thing. But let's start with the first part. In my system, it takes usually 4 to 5 years or so of training to earn a black belt. Everyone's a little bit different there. So I would simply answer this as someone who engages in 2-3 hours a week of training for 4 or 5 years is going to be something like a black belt level in kickboxing or any other combat sport. Okay, so then the interesting thing about Taekwondo is you can do Taekwondo that pretty much doesn't have poomsae in it if you focus entirely on sport sparring, kyorugi. I guess you have to do just enough poomsae to move through the ranks, but I know most of the sport programs don't do any poomsae at all. So maybe you eke out enough to test up through the ranks, but understand that once you get to black belt, you don't have to ever touch poomsae again if you don't want to. The only reason you need to touch it at all is because you really should get to black belt to unlock the ability to compete in different venues within the sport Taekwondo world. But you can pretty much just do Olympic sparring Taekwondo. If you want something with lots of kicks and punches that doesn't have any forms, of course there's Muay Thai and kickboxing. That's going to probably be the closest thing to that. I don't think people necessarily do forms too much. If you enjoy forms, it's a perfectly viable way to spend your time. All right, from Daryl. Do you have any favorite martial arts movies or actors that really highlight Taekwondo and has left a lasting impression? Hwang Jong-lee is mine, and he also has old school kicking tutorials out there I find that are highly clever, and watching his kicks via movie screen was like first experiencing Bruce Lee. Nothing really jumps out to me, Daryl, if you're just trying to isolate a Taekwondo practitioner in movies. Philip Rhee, I think, from Best of the Best is the one that jumps out to me the most. I liked the Best of the Best movies, and of course he exhibits a lot of Taekwondo technique in those movies. That's really about it. I don't have a whole lot to say about that, I'm afraid. From Cindy Pearson 6324, I was very interested in your discussion on poomsae, This is referring to Topic Tuesday from a few weeks ago. I have always been drawn to that aspect of Taekwondo, and especially now as one who's older, 68, and still actively training. Could Poomse have been created with those in mind that would have a lifelong goal of continual training when combative stuff is no longer physically practical? I do feel a mental/spiritual connection when performing the taegoks, a release from this world, an inner power, and a joy in the continual perfecting of technique. Is there a way schools can excite and bring more emphasis to Poomse with their students? Also, do you have any suggestions of the right mindset when doing Poomse competitions? Oh, a lot of good stuff in there to break down. Let's talk about the first part that asks if Poomse was maybe created for those who are older. It gets hazy when you try to isolate the origin points of different things in martial arts, but I think whenever let's put it this way. There's a whole branch of Chinese martial arts associated with Taoism where longevity is absolutely a part of the training. And my understanding of Taoism is one of the main goals is to live in harmony with the Tao, the way of nature, as much as one can, and to possibly even obtain immortality by living in perfect harmony with the Tao. Of course, no one that we know of has obtained this, but there are legends in Taoism of people living for hundreds of years. So the most common Taoist martial art we think of is Tai Chi, and then there's Bagua, Xingyi, and all these others. And certainly, again, the longevity is considered to be a part of that training. And I think that idea definitely seeped into a lot of the martial arts that we practice today. And of course, the Taegok forms reference Taoist philosophy quite a bit in the way that they're laid out. So I do think that's a part of what people were thinking of when they constructed Taekwondo. As to how much, I can't exactly say for sure. But generally, I think traditional martial arts were part of a holistic lifestyle. A lot of times the practitioners were medicine workers, they were physicians, so they were people that the communities would send the sick to for healing. So they understood the body holistically and incorporated that into their training. This, of course, is only one side of how martial arts were used. There were systems that were entirely derived from military usage that would have been different. But I think most of the modern systems were constructed with this kind of archetype in mind of the monk, the warrior monk, someone who is strong physically and capable of protecting others, but also lives in a spiritually pure way and promotes their own self-help or health, if that makes sense. So that's a really interesting question. I don't know if we can precisely answer that or not, but it would be a fun one to dig into with some martial arts historians, see if they could build a link between those Taoist practices and what the founders of Taekwondo intended. Let's see. So then you talk about, is there a way schools can excite and bring more emphasis to Poomse with their students? That's really hard. It's one of those things that I think you either like and you don't, or you don't. One of the things that I would say as a criticism of the modern West is that we have divorced ourselves from ritual and the importance of ritual. And Poomse is a form of ritual that I think has really legitimate psychological benefits, just like what you're talking about in your comment. There's a reason that militaries since the beginning of time have incorporated some sort of disciplined, structured movement system into their training. And there's a reason that the religions around the world are ritual dense, the traditional ones, I should say, because those have real psychological impact on the participants. I talked about Freemasonry in a couple of the Topic Tuesdays, and they have similar mechanisms, rituals, plays designed to take their initiates through a range of psychological experiences as well. And so when you get arrogant and think of things only in a materialistic way, I think you miss out on the weight that certain rituals have on human psychology. And human psychology is a really difficult thing to quantify, and I don't think that we have a deep understanding of how it works. You know, materialistic view attempts to reduce it all to neuroscience. Maybe you can do that, but if you can, we're far from understanding the complexities of it. And I don't know that you honestly can. This gets into all kinds of philosophical, metaphysical stuff, but an interesting thing to think about is we see the world through symbols. Like if we look at a cup, we see it as something that we can grab and drink out of. It's a symbol to us. We're not seeing the atoms or the energy waves that make up that cup. That would be too complicated. It wouldn't make any sense to see it that way. So we see it as a symbol. So when we look at the brain and we view it as just neurological paths, electrical signals, that might just be a symbol that we're seeing the brain as, and we're missing the more complex story that is the human mind. So I think to reduce everything to materialism is a mistake, and throwing out poomsae or ritual in general is something that we shouldn't do haphazardly, because I do think there's a reason it's been around for so long, and that it does have profound psychological purpose, a profound psychological purpose for the practitioners. How you can tell people that in the modern world, that's a really difficult thing, and I would love to think on that more. If any of you guys have ideas about how to better promote poomsae, please let me know. Again, in the modern West, we tend to view Taekwondo purely from the standpoint of how effective is it for fighting, and how effective is it for exercise, those two things. But we're missing a big part of the story if we do that. And maybe it's connecting the dots more between poomsae and some sort of functional technique. So like I did Uechi-ryu karate for a while, and the interesting thing about that is the way you practice the form is always directly relayed in the next set of techniques or drills. So like you do the form, the kata, and then the rest of the class you spend practicing applying pieces of the kata. So it's not so divorced, whereas Taekwondo, you do the poomsae and then you do this sport sparring thing that really doesn't look like the poomsae at all. Maybe if we had more training that resembled the poomsae, it would make sense to people more, and they would be willing to invest more time in it. That could be. For me personally, I think that would be exciting. For me personally, I would enjoy that process, and I would enjoy poomsae more if it were connected to tangibles like that. So that would be my best guess. And the final part of this, do you have any suggestions of the right mindset when doing poomsae competitions? Excuse me. You know, it's funny, I was just talking with someone about sport poomsae, And overall, I think sport poomsae is a good thing. Basically, it's enacting very strict standards on the movements of the Taekwondo practitioner, leaving very little room for creativity. But what that does is it allows you to score it much more objectively than you otherwise could. The unfortunate part about it is you get so stuck on all the little minutia that I think it's hard to put yourself into a mindset that's not just, is my foot at the right position? Is my hand shoulder height? I think that's one of the key differences when you watch an old school performer of poomsae that's not so obsessive about, is my foot exactly lined up with my knee? You know, these little things, they're more fluid in the way that they perform. And the mindset, to me, looks more like they're envisioning a fight than a really talented sport poomsae athlete who's, I mean, they do absolutely incredible things with their body. But to me, it looks like it's all about technique. Their mind is sort of neutralized, and so there's not so much of an artistic performance element, but just a machinist going through a very precise set of motions. So, mindset, I think you have to remove yourself from the technical side of things as much as possible when you actually get up and perform. I think having a little bit of passion, a little bit of intensity in the performance is something that I find refreshing to see now, and I always encourage it in my students. So just an intensity in the face, and having that element of visualizing the opponent in front of you. Now, if you're a pure sports poomsae athlete, you might find that inappropriate. So I'm probably not the best person to answer this question if you're just talking sport poomsae. But for me, I think having the martial mindset when you perform gives an overall better performance quality than just viewing your performance as though you're stamping out a pre-designed industrialized movement set. But the big thing is I wouldn't get focused either way on the minutia of what you're doing, and just think about the attitude that you have when you're performing, rather than, oh, is my knee in the right spot? Is my hip rolled over just right when I did that kick? Because that leads to getting lost and freezing up and getting nervous when you start to shake and all of that, because you're thinking about all the things you might do wrong. Instead, just make it about the battle. You're a martial artist. You're getting out there and you're winning this imaginary battle. That's the performance. Okay, next question from Enormosaurus, who writes, I'm very new to Taekwondo, so I've been practicing my side kicks a lot. I find that holds and exercises in that position are actually very uncomfortable on my neck and traps. Is this a technique issue, or do I just need to get more practice? I can't really analyze it too much without seeing it, but I can't think of why you'd feel a big strain in your neck and traps. So if I had to guess, I would say that something's not aligned correctly with your sidekick. Man, I'd have to see you to really know for sure, but I'm guessing you're missing a critical component if you're feeling a lot of strain in your neck or traps. So sorry I can't be more helpful there, but what I would make sure you have a really clear understanding of your sidekick. If you haven't yet, check out my sidekick video in the how-to section, and then check yourself and make sure you're not falling into any of the problem areas. And if you're not falling into any of the problem areas, then that's something that would be interesting to analyze. Let's see why you're feeling that. All right, for the next topic we have Bippity Boop, who writes, "Hello, Paul. I just came back to Taekwondo after 16 years. I'm 28 years old, and I'm a first Dan black belt. My goal is to keep growing in the Dan system and maybe compete in Poomse in the future. I used to be good at kyorugi when I was a kid." Kyorugi is sparring. "But after all these years, I've realized it has changed a lot, and also me and my body have changed, and now I'm not enjoying kyorugi that much. Is it necessary to keep practicing kyorugi to do the next Dan exams?" Well, that's going to depend on your school, Bibbidi Boop, but in my system, you do not need to present any kind of sparring material to move through the Dan system. I have 3 archetypes that people can choose from that lay out what is required of them for their black belt exams. In my case, they can choose the scholar path, where they highlight their understanding of the entire Taekwondo curriculum that we teach. There's the warrior path that is very sparring heavy and focused on the skills that they've acquired through their study of competition. And then there's the performer path, where they really harness the creative powers of their mind and put together either their own weapons form that they've customized or choreograph a self-defense routine along with a few other performance things like fancy board breaks. So in my system, you most certainly do not need to emphasize your sparring training to move through the Dan system. And I think it's unfortunate if anyone forces that on you, because you're absolutely right. Your body does change over time. And if we're being honest, the way that sport Taekwondo is formulated and what you really have to build skill in now is just not great for someone who's getting older. The things it requires of your hips, not great for an older person. It's just less likely that you'll be able to do it well. And it can often put your body through ranges of motions that might not even be recommended based on your age. So yeah, I think it would be unfortunate if a route is forced upon you. Certainly wouldn't be through my system. A lot of good questions today. Thank you everyone for participating. And just like I said earlier, if you'd like to participate, just leave a comment and I will get to it next time. And until then, enjoy your training.